try to see if you guys can hear us, if you can see us. We're going live.
Yeah, because you guys were saying you couldn't hear. There was a little bit of I guess, a break or whatever, and what we were doing, but we're gonna try to get past the technical issues. You know, it's gonna be good.
Yes.
When you have to kind of, triumph over a little bit of challenge and a little bit of adversity. You know what you're doing is going to be good. So we're gonna try and get you guys queued up. We saw Miss Belcher from Atlanta. We saw Dee Ayers from North Carolina. I think that's right. And then we saw Miss Ava. And Miss Ava is from Hawaii.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we still don't see you guys. So we're just going to take some time to find you. But while we're doing that, let's go ahead and talk about something else.
Yeah.
So you guys probably couldn't hear us before, but we were talking about over the what we've touched on the last couple of weeks. We were talking about physical wellness and all of those things. And I'm thinking we're live now. Are we live? Let's see.
We can hear you loud and clear now.
That's awesome.
Yay.
Yes.
Hey, Christy.
Hi, Miss Christy.
You guys are just like, I know this may not be like a real fancy term, but you're ride or die right here. I mean, if that's okay to say.
Hi, Miss D. We see you there.
Hi, Miss D. You can hear us too. So happy. Ava, I don't know if Ava made it back, but Ava was with us from Hawaii. Ava, if you made it back, let us know that you're back. We don't want to lose you guys because of technical difficulty. So just so glad to be back. Dr. Riffy was saying that we took a breather last week because of the inauguration. So am I saying that right? Inauguration? Good. So just check it. So we took a breath and decided to let everybody kind of, move in and out of that event. We wanted to honor that. And so we're back and we're talking about physical wellness. We're excited about physical wellness. So now we're just trying to get everything on board. We think we have our AV stuff together. We have our technical stuff together. We got a thumbs up. So we're just excited to be here. We're going to dive back in, Dr. Riffy.
Absolutely.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes.
Because you may have missed that.
So if you guys don't know us, if you haven't been following along, I am Dr. Riffy. I am a nurse first. I am an executive on the team at Ascend Wellness Services, and I'm a wellness coach, and I'm excited to be here today because we are going to be talking about what nourishes you. So give us a minute. We'll get into that. We're just going to all introduce ourselves. So you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I am excited to be here. I am Andrea Josephs. I am a licensed professional counselor. I'm a mom first, though. I'm the mom of 5 girls, which makes me a princess producer. And I believe in everything whole, everything optimal, and everything well for you and for me.
Absolutely. My name is Karis. I plan on being a psychology major, and I'm on the administration team at Ascend Services.
I just want to take a break for Miss Karis. Miss Belcher, can you hear Karis this week? Because that's what everybody has been saying. That's the feedback we've been getting on what we did. We want to hear Karis. We can't hear Karis. So can you give us a comment if you can hear Karis and if her voice is projecting? Because it is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So while you're doing that, let's go ahead and jump in tonight. So what we were talking about, we had our break, but before our break, we were talking about physical wellness. And it is all about balancing physical activity, your mental well-being, and nutrition in order for you to be in your top condition. And I see you there saying you were looking for us last week.
Aww.
Well, we were so sad to not come on live. We were, like we said, taking a breath for the inauguration. So now we got to get back into the nitty-gritty of stuff. And so that's what we're talking about this week. We're going to be talking about some nourishment. What nourishes you? And so by saying that, I'm going to segue to Miss Joseph. So she's just going to talk to you guys a little bit about what she means by what nourishes you.
When my girls were younger, I used to try to instill in them, actually when they became teenagers. So when they became teenagers, they began to get their own palate in their meals, what they ate. But I noticed also that their palate didn't just change in their physical nutrition, the food. I realized that they had some shifts in their mentality and emotions and some shifts in their spiritual or in their, emotional realm. Some people say spiritual realm, some people say emotional. It all sits in the same seat of the human, I think, or the us of humanity. So in that period, I begin to tell them, you are what you eat, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And so what I was trying to get across to them is what you take in and what nourishes your body and what nourishes your mind and what nourishes your soul or your being or your well-being is what you're going to look like. So if I eat a lot of junk, and we are real when we talk on our lives, and the real truth is I spent a lot of years eating a lot of poor nutritional things.
Right.
And so my body began to manifest that. On the same token, I found if the girls, listened to a lot of music that had negativity, that was melancholy, different things like that, their emotional affect began to display that. So we're talking about physical wellness, which involves nutrition. So it just popped in my head that nutrition means so much. You don't separate like disjoint the body. It all comes together and works together. So what does it mean? It means how do you nourish yourself multi-layered in your life? So what am I eating?
Absolutely, that's so good. And when we talk about nourishment, he said, say it louder for the kids in the back. Yes. When we're talking about nourishment, what we are specifically focusing on is growth, health, and anything that allows you to be in a good condition.
Yeah.
And good condition is personal to you. But when she's talking about that, one thing that came to my mind when you were asking what nourishes me, when you take it out of not just what I'm eating during the week or what I'm putting in a natural space, I also think about what I'm looking at on my phone, what I'm accessing on the TV shows I'm watching. When you brought it to that space, because when we were talking about it, we were like, shouldn't we just talk about nutrition and what we're putting in that way? And I think what I ended up believing and hearing when she was talking about what she used to tell us when we were growing up is, what I put in is what I'm going to get out.
Right.
And you see that in this physical domain, not just with nutrition, but with your mental and emotional health. You see that with physical activity, like how much I exercise is how much I gain.
Right.
How much I plan is how successfully I do. I think there's like this cause and effects that we don't even realize that we're engaging in sometimes, of like, why do I feel so emotional vomit today?
Right.
Well, I spent 8 hours watching trash TV, so I'm feeling like what I've been putting in.
Right.
Or why do I feel so bloated and bogged down and tired? Well, all I ate was fast food this week. I didn't put in foods that nourished my body, that allowed me to grow, that allowed me to contribute to my health and contribute to a good condition in any area of my life.
That's good stuff. Paris, I was just sitting here thinking about it. You love music. You take in music. I have actually seen you nourish your emotions and nourish your mind in music. And when our family hit any rough times, or I know when we hit any space that was just particularly challenging, one thing I noticed about Paris when she became a teenager, I could always tell what was nourishing her by the music that came out of her room. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I can say that music is my main outlet of just basically processing those emotions most of the time, and depending on what I was listening to is kind of the attitude and the energy I was kind of putting out. I can say that if depending on what I'm listening to, you immediately know what I'm feeling. Can't hide those feelings. But my mom used to tell me all the time in middle school. She's like, I used to be like, I don't know, I'm so sad all the time, I don't know what's wrong with me. And she'd be like, well, what are you listening to? And I never thought that mattered. I was like, why does that matter? It really doesn't. And then I realized once I started putting better music into my system and listening to better music and surrounding myself with, because I think it's more than just like what you're listening and what you watch, also the people that are around you as well, who are your accountability buddies.
Yes.
And so it's just like, depending on what you are, you are what you eat,
Right.
And so that's what I always kind of have to watch for myself, because when she's saying like what nourishes you. What nourishes me usually is music.
Yeah.
And so it's an accurate representation of that for me.
And sit in the space where you live, I believe, too, because it made no sense. Even though we're talking about nutrition, and I feel like a Vanna White girl, but we have our green drinks. We made them. We thought about the nutritional side. No, truly, you guys, I made this. I'm really, really proud because it's not nasty. But I'm proud. It was touch and go for a minute. But really, really looking at what you eat, really, really looking at what nourishes you. And we had to come to the realization to be where we live, because we're talking about what nourishes you. I'm not a nutritionist. Like, you're a nurse, so you can get into certain facets of the physiological nutrition. And so, but I'm a therapist. And so I am really about a healthy mind and a healthy emotion. And when I sat back and looked at that, I thought it would do a disservice to try to go into as if we're nutritionists and just really negate. There's a lot of people that do that, you know. We're even making decisions in our nutrition and how to change things. But I just think that from my treatment, and, you know, for those of y'all catching us tonight, I went through cancer treatment. That's a part of my tapestry, so it kind of is woven into what I do as far as wellness and health is concerned.
Yeah.
And one thing I really truly learned during that season is what I put in my body.
Right.
My mind followed where my body followed where my mind went.
Yeah.
So even through any adversity, I can honestly say, and I'm a woman of age, I say that often. I'm proud of my AARP party, like you said. So I've lived through some decades. And one thing that I have learned over the span of those decades is every time I hit a space that was trying, every time I hit a window where, like, man, I don't even know if I can, like, persevere past this. Like, matter of fact, how did I even get here? And when I hit spaces like that, I begin with my mind first. And let me tell you how it directly connects to nutrition. I'm gonna share a truth of mine with you. I am an emotional eater. Over my adult lifespan, I would dare as far to delve into the fact to say that I am addicted to food and sweets. Why would you say that? You know what a person is addicted to or connected to by where they run when they get in trouble. Right. So if I had a bad day and I run to Doritos, well, actually it's Sunchip, but if I were to run to Doritos, that is what my comfort is.
Right.
So that's why, and I'm not making it up as I go along. There's a certain thing called comfort food.
Right.
So now when I hit those emotional spaces, as I mature in the area of physical wellness, in the physical domain of wellness, I have got to say to myself, okay, I identify an emotion before I nourish myself. Before I nourish my body with these Doritos, with these chips, with this ice cream, because I'm feeling kind of bad about something, I have to look, and first I stop. And I have to tell myself, my mind, what is going on. So my body has a chance to respond. And and it looks like this. I'm not hungry, I am.
Right. I am sad.
I have to fill a blank.
Yeah.
I am not hungry. I know, none of us, we're all so sweet and running through the poppy fields and nobody gets mad, but I get mad. So I may have to stop and say, I am not hungry. I am angry. I'm stressed. Very good. So when I identify those things, I find that my physiological food nourishment begins to follow that mental and emotional nourishment. I begin to nourish myself. Okay, if I'm hurt. I'm literally hurt that this happened or that happened. So if I identify that, then I begin to say, okay, I'm hurt. Okay, well, I'm hurt right now, but I'm not going to be hurt always. And I am what I call, I'm going to get back into the tapestry of what kind of anchors me a little bit. So if this doesn't anchor you, that's fine. Go wherever you go to get anchored. But I get anchored in spirituality. and it has a biblical underpinning. So I do what I call build altars, build reminders of times that I got over something.
Mhm.
And then I begin to say to myself, yes, I'm hurt, but I got over this, so I'll get over I got over that, so I'll get over this.
Yeah.
And then my body begins to travel that. I want you guys to speak on that, but I want to make sure that you guys have a minute because I think this is something that is relevant to people. Please share it for people that you know so we can be here together. They can watch on replay, but I love for us to be here together.
Absolutely. So I love what you were talking about when you were saying that you noticed you started to connect
Right.
the dots between what I'm physically reaching and grabbing for
Mhm.
in my kitchen with what's going on around you. Because when we're talking about the wellness domain, I think it's so interesting when they describe it. They don't just talk about physical activity, which is what we think about, or nutrition, which is what we think about. They also add that mental well-being
Mm.
in there. And I think we sometimes gloss over that. We say, well, I'm exercising
Right.
and I ate my salads
Right.
today. But what does that mean if when I'm trying to de-stress at the end of the day, to be completely honest with myself, I asked my husband to go and order 7-Eleven online and buy me, 2 king-size Reese's and a Coke. You know what I mean? Or am I hormonal? Is that
Right.
why I want this Reese's? Is it my time of the month, or am I de-stressing, or what is it? You know what I mean? And I think that all goes back into what we are filling ourselves with,
Absolutely.
making sure that it's nourishing, and also being intentional,
Mhm.
being very, very intentional to set aside the time.
Right.
So I figured out with myself, if I'm emotional and I'm eating, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's a reason there are comfort foods. She said that. Nobody gets comfort from a banana. Bananas are good for you. Eat your bananas.
Bananas.
But no, you don't leave your house after the end of the day and kids are doing this and everything's happening and you say, I really just want a banana right now.
And
You
if you
don't. Well, good.
Come help us.
Yes, come help the rest of us. But I think that sometimes what we end up running into is we do not plan and we're not prepared. And so when we hit those emotional moments, we do not know what can gratify
Right.
or satiate
Right.
those things in us. And so I think I begin to clock myself. I call it clocking.
Yeah.
8 p.m.
Mm.
Here I am, wanting that Reese's and that Coke.
Right.
I had a long day at work. I'm stressed with the kids. I have things going on. Discipline somebody
is
popped in.
right.
So what did I start to do? I started to do meal prepping. I said, okay, if I have quick, because my thing is usually stress.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I worked a long day. I want to order out because it's quick.
Right.
Order out comes to my house. No matter what I'm doing in my life, it's going to come straight to me. And so what I started to do is meal prep. I started to manage my time differently. That way, if I do have an emotional moment, sometimes I can have this moment, sometimes I can't. But at least I have something quick to grab because
Yeah.
mine is usually related to stress.
Yeah.
So I'll say, oh, well, I don't need to order out because I already pre-prepared my meals for this week.
Yeah, and I agree. Miss Belcher said discipline. I
Yeah.
agree with that. But in order to bring something, like to skirt something or to put guardrails around something, you totally have to identify it.
Yeah.
Like when I was circa 328 pounds, about 5 or 6 years ago, at my heaviest, at the height, if you would have asked me if I stress eat, I would have told you no. If you would have asked me if I probably would have told you no. Sometimes when you're sitting in a thing to get to that place of discipline, yes, find healthy alternatives. Before you can do all those things, you first have to acknowledge the fact of what you're doing.
Right.
You have to.
Yeah.
Because this is what it would sound like. It would sound like, I worked all day. I deserve this. All I want to do is just have this whatever, fill in the blank, and peace.
Yeah.
So for me, it became a part of my decompression.
Mhm.
Like I run like nobody's business all day. I do work. I do PTA. I would do kids. I would do gymnastics run. I would do dinner, husband, food. I would do everything. And so when the day ended, the reason why it was 8 o'clock, and you're a new mom. So the reason why that 8 o'clock-ish or 7 o'clock-ish hour becomes the time where we need to find discipline, becomes a time when we need to find healthy alternatives, is because it becomes a part of our rhythm, our daily rhythm. I have poured out. You have moms and dads that work all day, and dads are like, I've poured out at work, I've done the honey-do list, I've done everything.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa,
Yeah.
to prepare for my family. And so you have that, now it's time for me.
Right.
And so if you have to kind of acknowledge those things in order to, like you said, have the discipline, in order, Christy, like you said, to have those healthy alternatives, you first got to acknowledge that you need it. And that what you're eating here, what you're saying to yourself is unhealthy. And that is then in turn displaying itself in unhealthy, like physical. And I'm going to go ahead and let you in on another truth for me. I woke up in some kind of way. I woke up kind of off in my sleep last night, Tuesday, because this is what, it's Wednesday. And I found myself in my kitchen. I was like, wait a minute. Food is for fuel. I'm not about to walk anywhere at 3 a.m. I'm not about to bench press nothing to work out or nothing. Why am I in the kitchen scrounging around like a nocturnal animal? The little rodents, they be up all night moving around like that. I couldn't figure out. You know what I had to do? Discipline. You know what I had to do? Healthy alternatives. And the battle, like you said, was one like this. I had to call and apologize because Dr. Ricky had been to my home and had left something in my fridge. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a trash bag. And I said, okay, I'm going to touch everything in this fridge that's unhealthy. I did touch it. And it went from my hands into that trash bag. Because sometimes the discipline starts with removing things that are unhealthy.
Right.
Just like you can remove things. Let's talk about removing unhealthy things.
Yeah, I think that's huge because we were talking earlier about what nourishes you, mind, body, and spirit, and self-control. Absolutely, that comes from self-control.
Yes.
And I love that. I think removing things from your life requires self-control. That was very timely and perfect.
Yes.
It requires self-control. I cannot remove something from my life without, number one, acknowledging that there's an issue there.
Right.
And then on top of that, identifying what I'm going to do to replace said thing. Because just because I take it out, if you take all of that, the junk food out of your fridge and throw it in the trash, but you don't replace it, are healthy alternatives.
Right.
You don't replace it with anything else. You're just setting yourself up to repeat a cycle. Then you have this cycle. And you see that a lot with nutrition and things like diets, bad diets, and you'll see people cycle.
Right.
Where, okay, I went from 0 to 100, and now I'm back on my crazy diet again.
Right.
So when I'm removing something from my life, I've got to practice self-control. We've got to practice discipline. We've got to put in healthy alternatives. But I think that when we're talking about removing just food, you might find that your food is connected to other things. When we talk about these domains and we're talking about physical activity, nutrition, and mental well-being, this is a great way to wrap up this topic.
Yeah.
Because we've discussed all of these things in different weeks. And the truth of the matter is if you're trying to remove something out of your life, even if it's just food habits, bad food habits that you don't want, you may end up finding when you remove some of those things that it'll open up other things.
It's good.
So you might say, I'm just going to remove these dirty things out of my kitchen. Well, when you get to that 8 p.m. moment and it's time for you to do your rhythm de-stress or your rhythm whatever,
It's not there.
and that's not there, you're going to have to figure out, how do I now satiate?
Right. That.
How do I satiate emotionally, mentally, physically? If food is for nourishment, food is for my body to keep living.
Yeah.
If I take out some things that I use sometimes as a crutch,
Right.
then what do I replace it with?
Yeah.
So removing things from your life, it's so hard.
Right.
Let's be real, it is so hard. It is something you need your accountability buddies.
Mm-hmm.
You need your friends. You need your partners. You need your kids.
Right.
Right? Because if you're trying to remove these things out, one thing my mom would always say, and it would drive me nuts when I was a teenager, she would say, I'm trying to diet, but you guys order out all the time. She would be trying to eat, and now that I'm an adult, I get it. She'd be trying to eat her salad. She'd be trying to drink her green drinks. And we would be like, can we get Chinese?
Right.
And then she smells it. She can smell it in the other room. Like, wow, you have to have people that are going along with you, even if they're not dieting or if they're not making the same types of restrictions as you. It's helpful to have somebody to be like, you said you weren't going to eat that pizza. You know what I mean? Or do you really want pizza, or are you stressed right now?
That's good.
You know,
That's good.
do you really want pizza,
That's
or
good.
did you have a bad day today?
Yeah, and I
Right.
support Christy. You're
Yes.
right. I will say this too. I remember being in my office, and someone in the office. When you're in the office, when I tell you the donuts run rampant, the sweets
Yes.
run rampant, and I remember being in our office, and it was around the holidays, and someone made a pound cake. I am a Southern girl, and a pound cake is in any form is okay with me. As a matter of fact, I can remember my grandmother always kept the pound cake in the middle of her table. Like that's something that I can remember. So everything was buzzing around in the office, and there was a little crisis in the office that needed to be diverted, and we had to come together as a team and kind of work things out. And the people around me know my journey. This is a journey for me. I'm not an expert in all things. As a matter of fact, I'm not really like in my line of work because I work with people. I am not an expert on anybody. They're the expert on themselves. I'm just a tool and a conduit to sit with them and let them see what gold is in them that they haven't discovered.
Yes.
So in that environment, we share. We share our journey. We share what we do. So that crisis was going on. Yeah, sometimes it's just harder. It's hard to just say no. Miss Belcher, look at Miss Belcher. Miss Belcher's been eating on the saucer since I was 5. She's got this thing down. Some of us are just coming along, behind. And so that person, I walked by that person and they had the pound cake. And I walked up to them, and just my demeanor, just my expression of what we were going to have to come together as a collaborative team to kind of avert this crisis, they looked at me and said, they had the pound cake. It's our cooked pound cake. And as soon as they took me in, they pulled the pound cake off the counter, off of the desk. Actually, it was the reception area's desk. They pulled it back and said, we can talk about that later. To me, that was so honoring because they knew everybody has a thing, honey. Let's just take a minute and just come together and come in close to each other and be honest that we all have a thing. We have a thing that we have. Yours may not be food. Yours may be emotions. Yours may be time management. Everybody has a thing. And if you don't think you have a thing, that's your thing. Right? So we can kind of look at that. So saying all that to say this, I am acknowledging in this comfort, in the safety of our tribe. We started calling each other a tribe, but we kind of like that. So I am acknowledging that food, honey, is my thing. So whereas long Miss Belcher said, just say no.
That's good.
There are some things in life I can say, honey, you come to me, I can give you such a quick anointed no, it will make your head spin.
Right.
That area is not food though.
But wait, that's not food.
That's my thing. So I acknowledge that. So acknowledging that allows me to bring on that discipline that she talked about, bring on that self-control that we talked about, because this is my area. For many of you that are here now and going to catch it on the replay, maybe nourishing yourself poorly with food, nourishing yourself poorly with bad conversations, negative thoughts. And if I were to call Dr. Ricky, or if I were to call you, Karis, and I pick up the phone and every time, hey, how you doing, girl? Did you see it was going to rain today? Well, yeah, it's going to rain. Girl, it's going to stretch. Ain't watched Wavy News 10. Don't know what the forecast is. Just automatically, when it rains, it's going to pour. It might rain today. But you know what? I'm going to pull out my cutest rain boots. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pull out what am I feeding myself. So it may not be food, but it may just be conversations with other people. So when it comes to those negative cognition, these negative conversations, because of what I do within my profession, I can catch that quick and bring it down. You know what I mean? I said, oh, no, I'm not going over there. I know I'm going over here. But it's not as easy for me to do that when it comes to some crunchy munch. It's my favorite.
Like for
Christy,
me,
it's my favorite.
like when we're talking about different things, like we were talking about nutrition really quickly. For me, we had a moment today, and it was me and Karis. We were driving on an errand, and I had forgotten my phone at home. Well, I intentionally left my phone at home. But when I tell you guys, I felt so naked without my phone.
Yeah.
I asked Karis, she was getting out of the car, and I was sitting in the car. I said, what am I supposed to do? And, like, mind you, I was born pre-phone, cell phone, so we used to play outside and do these things. So I know that I could use my brain. But then that began to get us into this conversation of what have I been feeding myself on my phone? Why do I feel like I need, like, is it social media? Is it so when we're talking about what nourishes you too outside of your food, if food is not your thing, and we talked about mind, body, and spirit, is it things on social media? Is that all that you're into? Like for me, I need to evaluate why me not being with my phone is an issue.
Right.
I should be able to leave my phone, walk away, and know what to do with my mind and my hands.
Right.
Why don't I have a plan for what to do with my mind and hands? So I think that when we are looking at this and we're wrapping it up, we're about to do our Karis tips, which if you haven't been here before, you know that Karis tips are the moment where she gives us some cute little nuggets about what we talked about today. But just before we get there, we just want to kind of let you guys know that what is most important out of this conversation, if you had to have a big takeaway before we get to our tips, it is just learn how to fill yourself with what allows you to be the best you. What allows you to thrive.
Yes.
What allows you to grow. And that may be different for you than it is for your partner, your kids, and that is okay. But learn, if you just need to take time, learn yourself, explore, try new things. Wellness Wednesday, we're not going to put you in a box. Try what works for you and make it work so you can be your healthiest self. Karis tips.
I know that we actually had some planned tips.
Would you have some?
I actually think that what you were talking about earlier was actually way better than what we had written down.
Okay.
So I think that the first tip that you should probably have is just making sure to identify what that is. I feel like that's what you need to do. Like my mom was saying earlier, she's like, you know, when I was in it, I didn't know that was what was wrong with me. So you need to take a step back sometimes and kind of look, you know, from an outward perspective and say, okay, what's going on, you know?
Right.
So I think first identifying what the issue is, and then second, I think we should find those healthy alternatives.
Yeah.
And say, okay, like you're saying, now I've thrown away the food, what am I replacing it with? Okay, I've gotten rid of those unhealthy friendships. Now, what communities am I going to join? You know, I've stopped talking to myself poorly. How am I going to rebuild a good, healthy, you know, thought life?
Yes.
And then lastly, I would just say to, you know, practice saying no, practice those boundaries, you know, because once you make that habit, it's just a constant, you know, like we were saying, physical wellness is like a journey. It's not something that you can do like really quickly and, you know, you just be on it. Sometimes it takes time to really get in the groove of things. So, you know, you have to be able to say like, okay, I know what my thing is. My thing might be food. All right. Now that I've got that thing, I'm replacing every time I get up and I want to eat something, I'm gonna grab a banana instead of that, you know, that popcorn. And then, you know, now when I go into the office and I see those donuts, I say, well, I'm not gonna have that today. Or I'm, you know, what's sustainable for you? Maybe you've been eating salads all week long. You can have one donut.
Right.
You can balance. Have balance. Okay.
Yes.
One donut will kill you.
And Miss Belcher said, taking a good look at myself, soul searching this right now.
Hi, family. We see
Hi,
you
family. Yeah, how we
Soul
see
searching.
you.
So I love those tips. That's great. We are going to wrap up. Let me tell you guys what we are talking about next week. Do not leave just yet.
Yeah.
Next week, we are jumping into February with Black History Month. And so we decided that as wellness, people that are involved in wellness in general, we wanted to talk about some specific issues that are impacting our community when it comes to health and when it comes to wellness. And so when you get back here next week, we want you to really be intentional this week invite some friends, invite your coworkers, invite anybody you know, because next week we're going to be talking about mental health in the Black community.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a topic that you do not want to miss. We're really excited
Yeah.
about it. We're
Yeah.
going to jump right in. And so we love you guys, and we want you to be there with your family.
Absolutely, and everybody
Yeah.
on the topic of this month want that. And I'm just going to be candid. I'm going to be transparent and honest. I think in this last season, some of the best conversations I've had about mental health in the Black community has been with some of my non-Black friends. We're coming together. We are pressing in to some of those hard conversations. We're getting to know one another. We're learning how to just be together, love well. We're learning to live, love, and work well as different people from different communities. And so I'm just going to say it. If you are not Black, it is more and just as important for us to come together still, because we are a community. We are a tribe. We're a tribe in our differences. We're a tribe in our similarities.
Absolutely. So we love you guys. Have a good week. Ascend
Shift
well.
the paradigm.
Shift the paradigms.
Yes,
We are
ma'am.
absolutely going to do
Yes,
so.
ma'am.
We love you guys.
Love
Have a
you
good
guys.
week.
Have a wonderful
Bye.
week.